FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz, and today is 10/10/19. Hard to believe we're a third of the way through the month already. As far as I'm concerned, October just barely got started. Well, you know that on this show, hey, I am a 4th generation entrepreneur. I love entrepreneurism. I'd love to see you guys realize your dreams. Even in America of today, if you have a good idea, if you build a better mousetrap and the mice have not become genetically immune to your mousetrap, you will succeed if you do it right. And, you know, being an entrepreneur isn't just being about starting a business. It's about execution, about so many other things. And often we take for granted that everybody, male or female, can start a business if they want to. And that is true. But there are certain societal expectations, societal blockages, if for lack of a better term, that perhaps stop women from getting into business the way they should. And, well, we got somebody here to address that issue, but also she is a serial entrepreneur like yours truly, a sales and marketing coach, a copywriter, and small business activist. Her name is Heather Havenwood. And Heather, welcome to the show. Hey, so small business activist, how does that work?
I'm just activating and empowering women, empowering people to do business. Honestly, you know, I say small business activist. Really, I just really want to help other people be an entrepreneur. I'm just a huge proponent of entrepreneurship. I think it's something that everyone could do on the side or focus on it, whatever that is. I just feel that entrepreneurship is kind of the engine that is the backbone of our society in the United States. So I'm a big proponent of it.
Yeah, and you've given a lot of seminars, held a lot of events where you have top online people talking about how to do this. But yet, many of you out there, you wanted to have a business for so many years. You wanted to go out on your own. And it could be for a lifestyle reason. It could be because you're tired of being an employee, being told what to do, when to do it, how to do it, all that stuff. It might just be you want to create something bigger than yourself. But Heather, so many people never do it, especially women. What is the number one thing that stops you from realizing your dream?
You know, I'll share with a quick little story. Just so you know my background, I grew up in Texas, born and raised a Texas girl, Baptist, Texas. And there's only 3 things, Carrie, that my mama wanted for me. And that is to marry a wealthy doctor, have lots of babies, and always look good when I leave the house. So 1 out of 3 ain't bad, mama. But I mean, I was really born and bred to just like marry, and that's it. I went to Baylor University my very first semester. I remember sitting around this table with a few other of the girls, and they said, well, I'm just here for my MRS degree. And I said, what's that? And MRS degrees means they're just there to get married. And, you know, yeah, like I didn't even know what that was because in my head, like that was never an option. To me, my mom ingrained in my head to be self-reliant. But yet, you know, I was just kind of told and taught that my job is to really just be a housewife. And all my friends growing up, that's what they are. And nothing against that. But I never had that vision. I always had the vision of being self-reliant and to start my own business. But yet I remember at the sweet little and young age of 29, when I'm living in Orlando, Florida, in your backyard there. And I was actually working for one of the largest seminar companies in the country. I'd been traveling the country at that point, around the country, working for Robert Allen Institute, Ron LeGrand, some of the big names in real estate investing, met Robert Kiyosaki during that time. And I was learning from them and buying and selling real estate and flipping houses, you know, this is 2003. So during the prime of that. And I remember I get this phone call from my uncle. Now, you understand when you get calls from like family, right? Like especially with family members that you're not sure why they're calling, thinking someone's dead. You ever someone like that?
They usually want money.
Yeah, it's like either someone's dead or something's wrong or someone's in the hospital. But so that was my uncle. My uncle never really called me, and he calls me. I'm thinking, oh my God, my mom's something's going on. So I answered the phone. I'll never forget it. I'm driving down I-4 right there in Orlando. And he said, well, your mama called me. And he's from Arkansas. He's got a thick accent. And I said, what's wrong with mom? Is she okay? Oh, no, she's fine. She's worried about you. Well, what is she worried about? Well, she just told me that you started a business and you're like buying, selling real estate or something. I said, yeah. And he said, well, don't do that. I go, well, aren't you a real estate investor? He's actually one of the top real estate investors in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Yeah. And he goes, well, yeah, but I'm a man. And I said, well, what does it do with anything? He goes, I'm just saying that's not what women do. Stop it. Well, so my point is that not all women are encouraged, right? Mm-hmm. Not all men are women. Men too are not encouraged to start their own business. Men are too. And I think that part of my advocacy is to encourage people that if that's what they want, do it. If that's what they want, do it. That's my big mission in life.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's worthy. It's interesting, like Texas, my ex was from Texas. And
that's a song, that? My exes live in Texas.
Yeah, well, and they should stay there too. But
that is a line of the song.
But
go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted your story, but that's a really good piece of that.
So a lot of what you're talking about is cultural, but Texas is like that. More people get married in Texas before the age of 21 than probably any other state in the country. And I'd go down there and, like the way I was raised in the Northeast in New Jersey was like, there was no question that I was going to college. There was never a question. You were going to college, and 98% of the people graduating from my high school went to college. So whether they were there to find a husband or not, I don't know. Women never confided that in me for some reason.
They would, you're a guy.
So a lot of it's cultural. So you had to break these chains of expectation and belief, but it sounds like you were kind of like a square peg in a round hole anyway. So that wasn't really that much of an issue for you.
So the problem is I look like I'm supposed to be the good housewife but I don't, my brain isn't that, right? So I am definitely a round peg in a square hole for sure. And I've always been that way. I've been kind of black sheep of the family. I realized a couple of years ago, 7 generational back, because that's all I could find, 7 generations back, I'm the only woman in 7 generations that's ever started their own business in my lineage. And I think that, I'm not abnormal there. I think there's a lot of people like that. And this is not an attack on men or anything like that. It's just noting that, like, for yourself, you were kind of inbred that it's 4th generation entrepreneurship. I think that's huge just because that's your family grew up in that. And so I think it's a huge piece in the society side. And I just want to get my message out there to help more women and men, if that's what they want to do, to really get started and start their own business, whatever that is. Like you said, have a good idea, go after it. We're at a different age now that you can do that. And I want to encourage people to do that.
The internet is like the Colt 45 of the Wild West. The internet is the great equalizer that enables you to be every much as much of a entrepreneur as a large corporation. You can project the same image, the same professionalism. So you've got these women, and I think it's good because really it's not different. There's a lot of men out there who won't take the plunge either. So
there's both sides of the image. I just happen to be a woman, so I feel like I can speak that language.
So you got somebody who like totally has no confidence whatsoever, doesn't believe they can do this. And you must have one there where it really was like a difficult case that you had to like marshal all your skills of, because in a way you're a psychologist, you're a business consultant, you're a coach, you're a parental figure, you're all these things, and a financial engineer.
I try not to be a parental figure.
Yeah, but you are. You're an authority figure, put it that way. What all a parental figure is an authority figure. And they're like betting everything on your ability to bring out the inner entrepreneur. It's like that movie Full Metal Jacket where the colonel is blasting Joker, because he's wearing a peace symbol saying, get with the program. Inside every, used a derogative term, for every Vietnamese, there's an American just waiting to get out. Inside every person, I believe, there's an entrepreneur just waiting to get out. But you got to get with the program and get them to do it. So you must have had one that really sticks in your mind.
A client per se. I mean, there's definitely a couple. I can speak for my clients, but I can speak for like my own personal journey. And in my own personal journey, I went through my first million online was 2005, and I was in Orlando, $1 million in 1 year. And then my first lesson. So this is what I call, lessons of entrepreneurship. And as you move through the world of entrepreneurship, there's these things called, walls that you hit, right? And there's no amount of education that you can go through that's going to teach you these freaking lessons, and this was mine. And I go through it, and I had a business partner, and he was a guy who did real estate investing, and he came to me and he goes, I want to be in the seminar business. And so I made him into amazing, I scrubbed him and made him look good and branded him and named him and created seminars, and we blew up in 2005. And then, I came home one day from a marketing seminar in Atlanta. I was driving back, and everything was gone. Bank accounts were emptied, merchant accounts were changed, and I lost everything. My house was in foreclosure within 2 months, and I went through massive bankruptcy. And I'll never forget this. This is really interesting. I don't share this story much, Carrie. But it's profound. I'm about 6 months in. I'm literally in devastation. I'm over there going, what did I do wrong? And who am I? Am I stupid? All this stuff, And I reached out to a mentor of mine, a guy that I used to work for, a guy that actually kind of fired me, weirdly enough. His name is Larry Pino. He's actually in North Florida. He actually ran the largest seminar company in the country. He didn't fire me in a bad way, by the way. I'm just not a very good employee, so it's not personal. So I reached out to his secretary's office. I called his secretary. Here I am. Look, you got to I'm only like 2 miles away from his office. I'm broke. I mean, I got nothing. And I called his office and I said, may I have 20 minutes of Mr. Pino's time? And she said, yes, came back. You can meet him at the Starbucks at the building for 10 minutes or some ridiculous small amount of time. And I'm hoping that he buys coffee because that's how bad it was. So I run down there and I sit in front of him and I said, look, I'm here because here's what I did. I tell him everything I did with this business. And he's like kind of blown away. And he's like, wow, this is pretty impressive what you did. I go, well, I was kind of emulating your model. I go, what the hell did I do wrong, Mr. Pino? I mean, what did I do wrong? And he looked at me and goes, you just picked a bad partner. You didn't get a lawyer. That's it. He goes, but what you did was brilliant. And then he hired me for $10,000 to help him with a campaign in his office, which I was like, you knew that wasn't the intention. And I just thought, okay. He looked at me and goes, nothing's wrong with you. This was good. Your model was good. What you did was good. It was brilliant. You just didn't get a lawyer. You didn't cover your butt, as they call it. And you didn't go through the legal stuff. You got so excited about the idea, right? That you didn't think through the legal side. I mean, who here in entrepreneurship's done that? And so he said, I really want to encourage you to keep going. You're a good entrepreneur. That was, for me, such a beautiful moment. Thank God he bought the coffee. That was cool. And I was just like, oh, can you give me some coffee? Can I have a double, triple latte? But I just remember going, okay, I'm not stupid. This was just a huge, huge, costly lesson, And I think that's part of entrepreneurship.
My father, who was third generation entrepreneur, I mean, his grandfather was, remember, he was in the plastics business in New Jersey at the turn of the 20th century, before anybody knew they needed plastic, before Dustin Hoffman and The Graduate, like 100 years before that. And the guy always had great ideas ahead of the time, but could never make it. And my father always used to say, anytime you get into a new business, you're going to pay for lessons. And you paid for lessons there. So what about clients who've come to you for guidance so that they don't have to pay for those lessons? You got to have one that sticks in your mind.
Oh, yeah. There's one.
Really.
She's in her 50s, single, divorced. she came to me and she liked yoga. You know, it was one of these like, oh, I like yoga and that'd be great for yoga.
Can't make any money doing yoga.
Who she really was what I call a yoga mama, you know, and part of what I do, what my elixir is understanding the art of influence and understanding how when you double down on pieces of the art of influence, that's when you create truly a brand that people are attracted to. Okay. I'm all about what I call the pre-sale. I'll call the dating before you get married and sex. Once you get married, I don't, you know, like that's a whole other conversation. I'm all about the attraction and the dating and the connection. How do you truly build something that people are attracted to, the desire, the influence, the celebrityness? So she was just, you know, like kind of, I'm just, you know, and I helped her create this brand of like yoga mama, and everything about her is like yogi, you know, now. And people are just like going to her retreats and they want more and they want more because they see who she is and they just want her, you know. And at the end of the day, people buy who, not what. People buy who, not what. Kim Kardashian, they buy who, not what. That's the world we're in now. That's the world we're in now.
That's what branding is all about, and influencing. You know, we live in this world of influencers, right? And,
correct.
You know, becoming one, I guess I am to a minor degree, but becoming an influencer, there's a formula to doing it, right? There's a way to do it. So how do you become an influencer?
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
Osino Resources is a Ross Beatty-backed gold exploration company in mining-friendly Namibia. Osino's district-scale land package is situated near 2 producing gold mines, one of which Osino's management team previously developed and sold to B2 Gold. Osino's founders and management are experienced mining professionals who have already successfully developed and sold 2 companies in the past 7 years. Osino has an excellent shareholder base with Ross Beatty owning 20%, insiders 5%, and Resource Capital Funds 8%. This is an exploration company with drills turning that you'll definitely want to pay attention to. Osino trades in New York under the ticker OSIIF and in Toronto under the ticker OSI. To learn more, go to osinoresources.com. That's osinoresources.com.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Let me give you one step. This is a really good one. And it came from actually something that happened with my mom. My mom passed away. And very suddenly it was kind of one of these like, boom, was it a hospice thing? It was found in her apartment dead. Boom. And I had a hard time dealing with that. She was only 67. And I remember my coach at the time said, go do something really weird. I don't know, do clay pottery classes. Just something different, really weird. So I took improv classes. Now, here's why. It was 1.2 miles from my house because it was like, well, that's close. So I took improv classes from a local theater down the street and took 101, then 102, then 103, then 104. I was there for like a year. And I took all the way to 106. And then at the end of it, actually what started with my podcast, kind of what I use in our podcast. So here's the key. So at the end of it, the main person looks at me and goes, Heather, you got to kick you out. There's no more classes. And I said, well, I want to continue. This is great. She goes, well, improv is the baseline of comedy. I'm like, comedy? No, I'm not funny. Like, oh no. She's like, that's why you should do it. I'm like, oh, hell no. So it took me 2 years to go because, freaked me out. So I'll never forget, I am in comedy class, 12 weeks of comedy class. And at the end of comedy class, you have to get up and do a 5-minute big thing in front of a live audience in front of your friends, right? And I am freaking out. And the whole 12 weeks was all about one thing. What's your stick? Or as in New York, they call it your shtick.
Your shtick. That's a little Yiddish there. Wouldn't expect a Texas girl to know about that stuff, but that's Yiddish.
So I thought, well, what's my stick? And I hire this guy 24 hours before I get on for $50 for the hour. He's like, well, I charge $50 for the hour. I'm like, sold. So I get him on and I said, what do I do? He goes, here's the thing about comedy. And this is exactly influence. This is the exact principle of influence too. He goes, the key about comedy, what makes something funny, a person funny, is they double down on who they are. It's like Chris Farley, the fat crazy guy. Remember him? Eddie Murphy, right? Richard Pryor. You can imagine their character. Kathy Griffin, Amy Schumer. She's the single slut person for a long time. Kathy Griffin, the D-list. They doubled down on that piece of them, the insecurity piece. They like tripled down on that. So I said, well, crap, who am I? He goes, come on. You're a Baptist biatch. I can't say that here. A Baptist biatch, double-breasted, blonde Texas biatch. And I was like, well, yeah. He's like, that's what you are missing. And it was really interesting. I looked at all my media and I looked at all my images and I looked at everything online, my influence online, my images, and everything that you see on there back then, I looked like the girl next door, really cute and sweet. Yeah. And like, I'm not, you meet me and I'm like powerful and strong and kind of a biatch. Yeah. And so I realized that my influence wasn't really working because I was hiding that piece of me. I was not allowing myself to have the energy. It's kind of like Gary Vee all of a sudden like being really sweet. You know what I mean? Or like Grant Cardone, like all of a sudden, I don't know, not doing sales anymore and becoming like a basket weaver or something. Like it would just be awkward. But they take their piece of themselves, they double down on that piece. Oprah doubles down. She is Martha Stewart. She's the girl next door. She doubles down on that on a brand perspective. That's what creates influence. Kim Kardashian doubles down. Like I was just talking about this. She now, I think, supposedly wants to go become a lawyer. I think personally, if I was her brand or influence person or consultant, I would tell her not to do it. If she wants to do it, she could do it. But I'm saying from a brand perspective, I wouldn't talk about it because it ruins the brand. You know what I mean? It ruins her influence. She's smoking a hot, big old booty, billionaire woman, started with a sex tape. Okay, fine. But then now you're going to be a lawyer? Like it's too off the mark, right? But that's a piece of the influence, I think that's key. You got to double down on who you are.
I guess at this point in her life, she could do whatever she wants and it doesn't really matter. And the brand be damned. Maybe that's the ultimate goal. True. That's probably true.
But I'm just thinking out loud from a brand perspective. I think that
so
it doesn't fall in line.
You raise a good point, though. Your brand needs to be congruent with who you are. It can't be like, people do it all the time, but it's got to be consistent with your personality. I mean, I can't see looking Kim Kardashian up in the law directory and going to have her handle my matrimonial or my bankruptcy. I don't think so. It's not going to work.
Right.
I think her brand as a lawyer would never really come to fruition. And hey, maybe she'll do it, but
she can get a law degree. But from a brand perspective, it doesn't really fall in line. It's that the commitment and consistency, which is a principle of influence by Robert Cialdini, right? It's a principle. And that's because human beings want that. And we also want to be able to connect with that. That's why he likes Chris Farley, because he's this goofy fat guy. Robin Williams was just, brilliant. We connected that piece of him that he probably at one point of his life couldn't stand that about him because he was so crazy and improv. We talked to him privately. Is that piece of him that he was embarrassed about when he was a kid, but that's who he is and we love, So I think that's a piece of the brand, and that could be in a business too,
So let's talk about your podcast since the show is about podcasting. So how many episodes you done?
Well, I've been a guest for over 450. My own, I think around 200.
200. So weekly show?
It's a weekly show. That's correct.
All right. So you're talking about 4 years worth. And what kind of,
4 years. Yeah. 2005, 4. Yeah.
Yeah. So what kind of audience numbers, what kind of download numbers you getting?
Oh, I don't talk about that.
You don't talk about that?
Nope.
In the
I'm
thousands?
not syndicated radio.
Yeah.
And National Syndicated Radio, I'm on 19 stations across the country. I'm on Roku on that station as well, and then of course on iHeart, Spotify, Pandora, everywhere there. I really enjoy it. I just don't talk about numbers. It's like talking about how big your list is.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you that I do 300,000-400,000 downloads a month off of my shows, but in any
Nice.
event,
Well, thank you for having me on your show.
Hey, my pleasure. 10,000 average, sometimes more, sometimes less per show. But in any event, and I do a daily show. But so what brought you to podcasting? Because it was looking to extend your brand, to get more clients, or just to share you? So why'd you start doing it?
So I, at the time, was, my fiance and I were building a business online. We went from 0 to 1.5 million in sales. But in the beginning, we weren't selling anything. We had a supplement company, and we were doing weight loss supplement company. And I was trying to do Facebook ads and couldn't do anything because they're very hardcore in supplements. And then I tried to do affiliates and nothing was working. And so I decided, well, I'll launch a podcast on business called The Win, and I'll sell the supplements. And so that's what I did. So what I first did is, the first year I was on 150 podcasts for the first year, just me as myself and as the owner of this wellness company. And then I flipped it and I got to interview 150 podcasters on like what works, what doesn't work. And then when I launched it, I went from 0 to national syndicated radio in 6 months because I kind of like broken the game, And so I did the podcast originally to sell supplements, because on your podcast, you can say whatever you want. You can sell whatever you want.
Yeah. So that's brand extension. I call that brand extension or augmentation, where you've got an existing business. You use your podcast to bring in more business effectively.
Yeah. The difference was I didn't create a wellness podcast. So I didn't go wellness for wellness.
That's all right.
I just did business, Heather talking to entrepreneurs. And then, oh, by the way, I have supplements.
That's okay. So you endorse your own
it is
products.
Okay. But I'm just telling you the strategy.
But that's a model, but
it's a bit model, right?
You're running your podcast to inform, entertain, all that, but you want to make some money off of it. So it's a lot harder when you go out like I did and try to sell advertising and sponsorships to an industry in decline, at least temporarily it was. It's better when you've got your own products, and every listener you convert, you profit from directly. And especially if you've got an underlying business that's already breaking even, or at least not losing too much money, that can be all the difference. And so what about YouTube? Have you gotten into YouTube a lot?
Yeah. My big social media is LinkedIn. I'm at 25,000. I really focused on LinkedIn about 4 years ago. So I've really cracked the code with LinkedIn. And then I focused on Instagram. And then only in the last 6 months have I focused on YouTube. I just hired a YouTube coach to really talk to me about that. I really focused first on the podcasting, radio. LinkedIn is kind of where I first started.
Interesting. So what about LinkedIn? Because it's not real. Most people think, I know their revenue model can be really expensive for marketing on there if you do ads or whatever, more than other channels. What is it about LinkedIn that works for you? And do you use it to promote your podcast too?
Yeah. So I actually feel like, and the people told me, I actually have someone interviewed me on LinkedIn. I did like an hour and a half of deep dive. People were like blown away because I got a chance to sit down with people who worked at LinkedIn last year or this March in South by Southwest. And I kind of got the lowdown on the algorithm. And let me explain it the only way I can explain it. People in LinkedIn, who, by the way, are like what I call across the street in Silicon Valley from Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So LinkedIn looks at everything the algorithm of Facebook and does everything opposite. So Facebook has trained people on how things work and the brain. They think that all social media is like that. And LinkedIn's the opposite. So everything you think is supposed to work on LinkedIn because you've been trained by Facebook won't work, and vice versa. So you have to retrain. That's why I focus on it for 4 years versus Facebook. Like I don't even focus on Facebook. LinkedIn really is going to be way bigger than from a not the numbers wise of people, but the power of Facebook. It's 10 times as powerful as Facebook. From the search perspective, from the content perspective, it's it's a powerhouse. And what I love about LinkedIn is that it's quiet. Facebook's in the news all the time. And LinkedIn's over there just like, shh. They just started live video this year. They looked at all the other live videos out there and they pretty much did everything opposite. So it's a fascinating thing to watch. It really is going to be the largest contact database of businesses in the world. And that's their focus, not social media. They don't consider themselves a social media platform. They consider themselves a business contact platform.
Interesting. So a lot of your podcast listeners come from LinkedIn?
Oh, I don't know. They click on the link, but a lot of my people come from LinkedIn. I mean, LinkedIn's my primary. I don't, I'm on Facebook, posting, but here's the deal. People on Facebook are there to look at what other people are doing in people's lives. People on LinkedIn are there to do business, period.
Yeah, so Facebook's a little voyeuristic, if you will. There are people on the outside looking in saying, why is my life so boring and all these people? But then again, LinkedIn, Facebook, from what I understand from my kids, it's really become like, Instagram is really where it's at. Facebook is kind of fallen by the wayside. It's for older people, older folks like me who I
post on Facebook, but I don't engage on Facebook, if that makes sense. Yeah, I post because you have to. But I engage on Insta. If you want to find me on Instagram, Heather Havenwood. But where I really engage is LinkedIn. Yeah,
I haven't gotten into Instagram at all, but it's probably a good idea. And so on Instagram, do you get followers and listeners to the podcast from there as well? Because it's what we're talking about here is cross-channel, multi-channel marketing, integrating your different channels that you're out on, whether it's podcast, LinkedIn, Facebook.
Yeah, I just believe in being omnipresent. It's that conversation of being omnipresent all the time, everywhere. Yeah. I'm on there isn't really much. I'm not on Snapchat, but other than that, I'm pretty much on every channel you could possibly think of.
You're not on Snap. God.
No.
Well, I'm not either. So, yeah, I don't like things that have too short a shelf life. Like Snapchat just has never made any sense to me. Going ahead, so what kind of goals do you have for your podcast?
Goals? I think right now I'm really focused on, I guess I have a different kind of viewpoint on podcast. I look at it as a leverageable tool. And I look at it as a leverageable tool to connect with people like yourself, like right now, because I'm nationally Canadian radio, I'm been invited to South by Southwest as a media person. I've been invited to MJ conference, which is the largest marijuana conference in January in Vegas for 60,000 people as a media and interviewing the owner. Like, it's a leverageability tool versus, I think it's a door opener versus like, it's all about me and the numbers. I use it as a tool to engage and to help and to connect. But I look at it differently than most people.
Yeah. No, I get it. It's kind of like your calling card, your business card now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're just,
I think that what I think it's cute. I think it's interesting, listening to you and talking about numbers. It makes me feel like back in the old days with, internet marketing, like, oh, how big is your list? I come from more of a female view. It's all about connection and communication and community and connecting and building and network and not numbers. Because for me, the right people will listen to connect. The right people will be attracted to me. I don't care if it's 1 or 10,000 or 1 or 100,000. Like, as long as people are connecting.
In my book, I talk about that. Like, your list size doesn't matter, because if you have broke millennials who are living in their parents' attic or basement, and you have 2 million of them, or I have 100 people who happen to own Gulfstream 650s, which list would you rather have? I don't care about the 2 million. So it's quality, not quantity. But if you have a quality list and you have quantity, then you really got something there. So you can't, denigrate one for the other. But I'll take quality. I'll take quality over quantity any day of the week, though.
Right. I feel like I had to focus on one thing, and that's what I chose to focus on, if you know what I mean. So
Sure.
I got the opportunity to talk to Martha Stewart last week in New York City, Carnegie Hall. And I love what she said. She said, the best way to get on shows in the media is to have a show.
And that is true. No, truer words were never said. Well, Heather, we have gotten to the end of our interview, and I need you to tell us where to find you, where to find your podcast, and how to connect with you.
Thanks for having me, Carrie. I really appreciate it. My name is Heather Havenwood, and you could find me at heatherhavenwood.com, as well as Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Went to at Heather Havenwood. I'm all those, facebook.com/Heather Havenwood, all of them.
All right. Excellent. Hey, we appreciate you coming on. Any questions or comments, just email me, kl@kerrylutz.com. We answer all. I hope this has been helpful for you. I know it has for me. I'm going to start looking at LinkedIn in a different way than I do now, because more of my market, I'd rather have people with money, and probably the demographics of internet, of LinkedIn rather, probably substantially higher income levels than Facebook, and age, probably an older demographic, and probably more entrepreneurial bent and more investor bent. So I totally get what you said there. We'll have to talk maybe later, and have to get some info out of you here. Have to pump you for some intel here, right? But hey, really appreciate you coming on. Questions, comments, just give us an email again, kl@kerrylutz.com. Heather, been a pleasure. We'll talk to you again soon.
Carrie. Okay, thanks.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.